Out of executive session.
So moved.
It's been
Second.
moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So we need a motion to table
So moved.
pilot agreement for until the next meeting. It's been moved and seconded. Caleb seconded.
Yeah, I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So it's tabled for for 2 weeks.
What we will do is try to put together a summary for you. First, an explanation of what pilot agreements are and how they work, and then we'll put together a summary for you of this particular pilot agreement once we get everything finalized.
Okay, and that's going to be done by the JCDA attorney, Mr. Rohrbal.
Offer to do that.
And we're expecting that as soon as that's released, we'll be able to put it on the website, the County Commission website, and will also be available in the packet next week. So, at the next meeting. So that's where we are.
And you foresee that coming out on Monday, Tuesday? I don't want to speak for you, but you tell me when you think that'll
It's
be.
early next week. Yes.
Early next week.
The explanation of the pilots will
Right.
be coming out next week. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other comments? Okay, so thank you.
Thank you all very
We'll
much.
move on. You're welcome. We'll move on to the next agenda on the item. Number 5 and that's interviews and appointments to the Jefferson County Board of Zoning Appeal.
President, I did have one question on that. I know who we nominated and everything, and I know who Charlestown is. We got 3 from Shepherdstown. I wasn't quite sure what those names.
I think we're doing BZA right now.
Doing BZA right now.
Yeah.
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 Mhm. But you're right, yeah, we did
But
get
I'll
3 from
help you with that when we
Shepherdstown.
get to that point.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Okay.
Okay,
So at this point, we actually have 2 applicants and we have 2 openings.
that works out well.
So we have one unexpired term that will end January 1st, 2020, and then we have one unexpired term that will end January 1st, 2021, and 2 applicants.
All right, I saw Leeds Corbin, I know he's here. Is Matthew McKinney here? Okay, all right, so we're going to interview you both. Why don't you, one at a time, Mr. McKinney, you want to come on down to the table? And we will interview you for for the position on the zoning appeals.
Great, thank you.
Have a seat.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So tell us who you are and why you want to be on the Board of Zoning Appeals Board.
Okay, great. My name is Matthew McKinney. I live and work in Jefferson County. I've lived here all my life. To be honest with you, this commission has done really a great job. Between you guys, your prior commissions, and the boards that have been with you, despite a few stepping stones, I'm really proud of where our county's going. I would like to commit my time to further that effort and getting us continue the momentum in the right direction.
And what do you think that direction should be?
I think that direction should go, in accordance with the comprehensive plan, the zoning ordinances. I believe that the responsible growth of residential and economic opportunities is going to be very prudent for Jefferson County.
Thank you. Other questions?
Let's see, I can't remember exactly when the BZA meets. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Thursday of every month at 2 o'clock.
The what?
Fourth Thursday of every month at 2 o'clock.
Thank you. Fourth Thursday of every month at 3 o'clock.
I am aware of that, and
Okay.
it's generally during work hours. I can be available, and I will be available for
Okay.
this appointment.
All right, thank you.
Let me say a couple things. One, I have probably put 4 cars out at your place of business
We
over
appreciate
the
that.
years. But you also understand that you're going to have some criticism because you do have a salvage yard.
Yes, sir.
And there'll be people that will question you on your decisions.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
You understand that?
I do.
You understand there are rules and laws and statutes and all that that you have to follow.
I do, certainly. Yes, sir. Great. Thank you.
Served on any other boards previously?
I have not previously or currently.
Yeah, it's always nice to see new faces.
Yes, I appreciate the opportunity.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
Appreciate it. Leeds Corbin? Leeds. So tell us who you are and why you want to serve on the
My name's Leeds Corbin.
Board of
I've
Zoning
lived
Appeals.
born and lived in Jefferson County, graduated from Shepherd. Ran a construction business since 1975, and semi-retired right now, and I'm at a point where I can devote some time to the county, and I think y'all are in need of it. So, that's basically it. I was recruited by Tyler Quinn. He's on the board, and he said that they need it.
Okay. Jane?
No,
Oh, okay.
and you've been in the construction business, so you're probably somewhat familiar with our zoning ordinances and so forth, and the role of the BZA. So I think you've got a leg up on that part of it. It may not be always what you want, but it's what the ordinance say that you have to enforce.
And I was just gonna follow it up, just what I asked the other gentleman, that you understand the rules and the statute and the ordinance and all that.
Yes.
And that you're.
Now, the only question I have for you all is, if there's decisions made and somebody doesn't agree with it and legal actions, where do I stand in the middle of the fight for legally?
Are you asking if you're personally liable, just for clarification?
Yes.
Okay. Where's Nathan?
Just like the attorney.
Just let Nathan go. Looks like he's coming back, though.
He is coming back.
He left his stuff, anyway.
It's my understanding the insurance the commission carries would cover you if you acted in good faith. Now, if you know, but I guess that's always up to the attorneys and the judges to interpret too, so.
I mean, it doesn't always work that way, really.
I guess the only question I have for you, say you own a construction company?
Sir?
You own a construction company, you said? Or you
Yes.
have? Have you ever had any issues or violations regarding zoning in the county at all over the course of those years?
No, not really, not with the county.
Not with the county, anywhere else?
Well, I've had legal action against me. I had a guy got killed on a job, and I wasn't the supervisor of that section or that time, and yet I was brought into the lawsuit and sued individually. So, I mean, I don't want to be put back in that same position. I mean, it's a nightmare if you know what I mean.
Well, we can't answer your question right this minute because our legal counsel went somewhere, and so, but he'll be back. And, you know, I don't know if you want us to go ahead. I mean, I don't know, what should we do? Ideas,
You can be
suggestions?
appointed and resign if you don't.
That's what I was thinking, yeah,
I mean, just be
Be-
frank. I mean,
Oh, sure.
yeah.
Well, and I'd like,
Well, I mean, I don't really foresee any problem, but you gotta look it down the line.
Keep it open, let others apply.
I'm not working my whole life for somebody to come in and take it away from me.
I understand, yeah, exactly. So,
I guess this thing's been posted
it has
for
been
quite
posted
some
for a
time
long
on the
time. We
website
have
and the
two applicants
newspapers,
and
et
two
cetera,
openings,
so.
so, there you go.
Sandy, from what's here in the book, I can't tell exactly what we're appointing to. We've got
Well, there's one alternate and one
one alternate and one
Oh.
unexpired term?
No, actually, we have two full terms that, but, I mean, they're both unexpired, but there's 5 positions, 3 are filled, we have 2 vacants. We still have 3
Oh,
alternates
okay.
that are not filled. So we need to appoint at least 2 so we can have 5 on the board.
Yeah, but we've got to decide between the two, what years their term
You have to
expires.
pick either January 1st, 2020 or January 1st, 2021.
Okay, so those are the
Those are
two
the
we're
two,
looking, all
mhm.
right, all right.
And these are alternate
No,
positions.
they're full
One
vacancies.
unexpired term, it
And
says.
one
They're
unexpired,
both
there's two.
unexpired terms, but they're not alternates.
They're different, I see, yeah, but they expire different times, but
Yes,
but they
yes.
are, they're full terms.
Yes,
Yeah,
they are.
unexpired terms, yeah, okay, so that makes sense. Okay, so what do you want us to do? You want us to appoint you or you want us to consider appointing you? And then if we find out
I'm
that
pretty
you're,
confident you'll stand behind it, and, you know,
okay,
make it right. But
all right. So that's what we'll
when
do.
they ask that question, they get it off my mind.
Okay, all right, well, and we can always get that answer for you if you're appointed and
So
you
if
find out the
if
answer is
I-
not what
if
you want to
find out
hear.
that I'm liable
Can
for it,
always
then
resign.
I can resign.
Okay, all right. So we'll take up the first, thank you, Leeds. So we'll consider the first one, we'll just start at the top. 1 3-year term ending January 1st, 2022.
2020.
I mean, 2022.
When I,
The first one is 2022, then 2020, and then
So the
2021.
2022 has been
Okay.
filled.
Oh, okay.
You
So-
did fill that
That's
one.
why I
It's
was
2020.
See, that's why it's so confusing.
I know,
Unexpired term
exactly.
ending
All right, so
January
let me
1st,
scratch that
2020.
out.
So we have a 2020 and a 2021 that we need to fill.
Okay, so let's do the one unexpired term ending January 20th, January 1st, 2020. All right,
I nominate Matthew McKinney, or I move we appoint Matthew McKinney to the January 1, 2020 BZA position.
I'll second the motion. Is there a discussion?
I'd rather see Mr. McKinney that 2021 position.
Well, then,
Why don't you nominate the other guy, then we'll see who
Yeah.
gets the most.
Well, yeah, we can do that. We can nominate, I can nominate. I just thought,
I don't know.
good.
I'm not gonna make any
You want to
nominations.
you want to, okay, so you want to nominate Mr. McKinney for the 2021 position?
Correct.
So so Mr. McKinney's been nominated and for the 2021 position and the 2020 position. All in favor of voting for Mr.
Do
McKinney?
you have a preference?
I'm at the board's disposal.
Okay.
All right.
For both years, if that's what's.
Thank you. All in favor of voting for Mr. McKinney for January 20th, 2020 term, raise your hand. Okay, that's 2. All right. All in favor of Mr. McKinney for filling the unexpired term ending 2021, raise your hand. Okay. So Mr. McKinney will be serving on the Board of Zoning Appeals for an unexpired term ending January 1st, 2021. So, okay. Thank you. So now we are, and I'll nominate Leeds Corbin to the unexpired term ending January 1st, 2020. I move that we appoint Leeds Corbin for the unexpired term ending January 1st, 2020.
second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay. So it's 4-1. Thank you,
Thank you.
gentlemen, for
Thank you
your,
for applying.
your interest and your willingness to serve. We need people like you all the time, so thank you. And this is I don't know what, this is a particularly hard board to stay full at the level that we need. So thank you very much.
Absolutely, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Sandy, we still need 3 alternates,
Yes.
so we still have slots to fill. Don't get all excited at once.
But they can have a
I knows
meeting
how hard
now,
it is.
so we're-
I know.
They can meet now.
Okay. So now yes, you have. So now we're down to item number 6, appointments to the Jefferson County Development Authority. So, let's see here. We need 3 people appointed. And and so we're going to start with the, I don't know, what did I do with my paper?
You want mine? You can't find it.
Yeah, I've got it somewhere.
Jessica may have put something.
She did.
Okay.
I just have to find it. I don't know what I did with it. Paper here. Too many papers.
good?
Got it. Thank you. So we need one labor representative, one business representative.
We have a field labor.
I mean, we have a field labor. We need one business and one industry and one citizen representative. So that's what we have. And I have all this stuff right here. And so I requested that, that commissioners review the applicants and pick the folks that they felt would best qualify for the positions that are available, that are currently available. So I'll open nominations.
You want to do them in order, starting in
Yeah,
industry?
let's start with industry.
All right, I'll nominate Gary Davis for industry.
That's who I would nominate too, so.
And I want to nominate Greg Mason for industry.
I'm going to nominate Jennifer King. Some of these sort of float which area they should be in. And she has a company, I guess you could say she manufactures honey. Some people probably argue against that, but I think she should be considered.
Well, go ahead.
I was just going to suggest, would she fit better in business? I mean, but it's up to you. I mean, it's your nomination. I was just, and, we all have our own ideas, so.
Well, if she doesn't make that, then I'll consider her.
Okay, all right, so all right.
So one at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
okay.
doing one at a time.
All right.
Yeah, it's easier that way. So I nominated Greg Mason for industry for this reason. He is working in manufacturing already. He is a workforce. He has experience in workforce development and training. He has many years of doing that. And so I felt that of all of the applicants, he was the one that really stood out to me the most, to be the most qualified to serve on the JCDA. I like Mr. Davis, but Mr. Davis is a resident of Huntfield. He is a Charlestown resident, and I believe that the board is already going to be made up of 5 municipal members. And so I would rather see someone who lives in the county get these 3 positions. And so that's why I gave Mr. Davis a hard look, because I like him and I think he'd be good on the board, but I don't think he is the right person for the industry. But he's a good person for industry, but the thing to me is that he is a municipal resident and not a county resident, and that's the biggest hang-up, in my opinion.
Well, and I understand your concern, because that's one of the concerns that I started out with, but I really like his presentation and his candor. I think he would be very good. He, in some ways, a newer resident, came here in 2008, but he's got a world of experience that I think can bring us some new ideas.
Okay. Any other comments? Any other nominations?
I agree with Commissioner Tabb. He may be a city resident, but we all live in the same community, so.
Well, like I said, I nominated Jennifer King. She has an aviary, does growing honey and things, runs a business, and I think I heard Mr. Mason and Mr. Davis. I just think, yes, they are very good, probably with industry, but I think at this point we need some new blood on the JCDA. That's,
Okay. So, all right, so we'll
how we
start.
gonna do this?
Well, we're going to go through one at a time, and we're going to vote. So we're going to vote for Mr. Gary Day, and it's going to take 3 votes. It's going to take 3 votes to position.
Right.
So all those in favor of Gary Davis, say aye.
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 That's two.
Raise our hand.
Okay. All in favor of Greg Mason, say aye.
Aye.
Jennifer King?
Aye.
Okay. So now the vote, there's a tie between Mr. Davis and Mr. Mason. So all in favor of Gary Davis, say aye.
Aye.
Greg Mason, say aye.
Aye.
I'll say aye on this.
Okay, so, all right, so we're gonna, Greg Mason is 3-1, 3-2 rather, and he is the industry representative on the Development Authority.
And he'll need an expiration date.
And the expiration date is 2022. For that, is everyone in agreement? The industry and business are new positions, so I think it makes sense to make them the full 3-year.
Okay,
Makes sense.
yeah.
3 years.
Mhm.
Is everybody okay with that? Okay.
Yeah.
So his term will expire May 5th, 2020. Okay, the next person, the next appointment would be for business. And-
I'll nominate Ms. King again.
Okay.
I'll nominate Michelle Sudduth.
Yep, so set it.
And I'll probably say it wrong, nominate Sean Fuego. Is that close?
Okay. All right. Do you want to speak to your, I also like Ms. Sutta. So you want to speak to for your candidates?
Yeah, I gotta find a sheet. Oh, well, I also like Michelle Sudduth, so it's a tough choice with only one slot for business, but hopefully maybe she can be representative. But Mr. Fuego, is in the business of business development now. He has a long background of positions and different types of management, and that really intrigued me. And I do think, in some ways, it's beneficial that he is a neighbor to our business park. And so it's a little up close and personal for him, but hopefully with a county-wide view as to what may go on in the business park.
Okay. Josh, do you want to speak to?
I thought Michelle was very outgoing, personable. She's relatively new here. She could bring in probably new ideas from, like, I think Chicago was. So I like to see even distribution of new folks, native folks, et cetera, to be as well-rounded as possible.
Ralph, do you want to?
I've already spoken.
Said. Well, and I like Michelle Sudduth for that position because of her experience. I think she has great qualifications. Her interview was wonderful. She did a really great job. She has experience in program and initiative development and experience in marketing and public relations. She owns and operates her own business, so I believe that she is a good candidate for that position. So, anything else? Okay, we'll vote. So, Ms. King, those in favor of Ms. King say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I'm sorry, I was repeating you. That wasn't a vote. Okay. Michelle Sudduth, aye. Okay, is that 3? Caleb,
Yeah.
me, and Josh. And Mr. Fiego?
Aye.
So Ms. Sudduth was appointed with 3 votes.
Well, I too agree. It was very hard narrowing it down, and she was also on my list, so I'm very happy that she is appointed.
Yeah, it was. It was hard to figure out where they best fit in, what their qualifications were best for, so. And that was for business, and so the final for these 3 would be a citizen representative,
All right, I thought Mr. Sean Fiego was best for citizen representative, so I'll nominate him.
I have no problem with that, but I'm going to nominate Timothy Ross. I know he is considered by some the spokesman, but I think he'd be better on the board.
Other nominations? Okay, well, I have a concern. I mean, I like Mr. Fiego. I have a concern because I'm afraid that he is going to have a conflict because he lives right next door to the Development Authority in Shiloh. And I don't know if, if there are issues that come up with regard to the Development Authority and Shiloh. I mean, I don't know at what point he is, I just wonder if he does have a conflict.
I think he mentioned in his interview he'd recuse himself and resign from his HOA board also, or if he's not on it anymore. So, I mean, I took that into account when I also picked him. So I think he addressed those concerns during his interviews.
I just am not sure. I don't know. But I don't know if there's any, is Mr. Fiego here?
I am.
Oh, there you are, okay.
Front and center.
Yeah, and that's a question that that's the only concern that I have, and I'm not going to interview you again because we already did that.
Yep.
But, and I know he did say that he was going to recuse himself should he need to, and I just have concerns about that.
So, did you nominate somebody?
I didn't,
Okay.
no. So, okay, well, we're gonna vote. I don't have a nomination. So all in favor of Sean Fiego, say aye. Aye. All in favor of Mr. Ross?
I'll put a vote in.
All right, so it's 4-1, Mr. Fiego. Okay.
And I want to say that I have nothing against Mr. Fiego. I thought he interviewed very well.
Well, I think he did too. In fact, I liked him a lot. And I looked at him a long time, but I that was just the one little concern that I had was.
But he has to think he's not unanimous, so he works hard.
Yeah, exactly, you'll have to work harder,
I'm
yeah.
already starting a campaign for the next appointment, so.
I think we should commend everybody. That interview process was
It was
quite
grueling.
extreme.
It was grueling, so.
Everybody should be commended that interview that did not get appointed, and there are subsequent appointments that will occur for expirations April 1st.
Yeah, and we're probably gonna be making those appointments, the end of well, this is the last meeting in March, so it would be the first part of the April 4th. We'll be making those appointments, so, and the advertisement has gone out, so, anyone interested in applying?
I had a question. Did the citizen term, does it end in 2022 as well? Or
2021, they have to be staggered, so, the citizens will end in 2021.
Well, and I know this is a little off the subject. I didn't vote for him for the citizen member, but Tim Ross has certainly put some blood, sweat, and tears into a lot of effort. And he was one of the few people that talked to me one-on-one and made some suggestions of how to pursue research on air quality, and I really appreciate that. So. We've had lots of good people apply, I tell you.
We
It's
have.
a
It was
tough decision.
Yeah, there were, it was tough.
Again, I have the question. I know the people for Charlestown, but I'm not sure I know the people for Shepherdstown.
Yeah, I don't know, or is anyone here from Shepherdstown to be interviewed for the, oh, okay, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Good.
invited them for interviews.
Oh, wonderful, okay, so come on down. Come on down, let's see, let's take these one at a time. Dolores Gregory? We haven't done them yet.
Well, we have interviewed them already.
We have interviewed Charlestown, we haven't interviewed Shepherdstown yet. Yeah, we interviewed Mr. Tolworth.
He's the only one that showed up.
Right,
Yeah, so-
right. So, hi, Ms. Gregory. Thank you for submitting your application, and you are one of the nominees from Shepherdstown, as you know. So tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to be on the Development Authority.
I'm I'm in the process of relocating. We bought a house in Shepherdstown recently, and we're going to be moving in the middle of April. And up until recently, I was a working journalist, and as such, I was kind of restricted from getting involved in any kind of local activity, local government, political activity, that kind of thing was off limits. So I'm now retired from that occupation, so I have the freedom to throw my hat in the ring for these kinds of things. But mainly, my impulse is sort of civic duty. I was told that you needed 3 nominees, and that without 3 nominees, you wouldn't be able to move forward. And so I agreed to be a nominee so that you could move forward with your process.
Okay.
So that's just basically why I'm here. I mean, if I should be appointed, I'm committed to serving and trying to carry out the duties of the position as prescribed. But my main impulse was to get things rolling, so that's why I'm here.
Well, we're glad that you did. Thank you.
Yeah.
So this has been a long process, so we appreciate the fact that you were willing to put your name in there. So, okay, does anyone have any questions for Ms. Gregory?
And since you're retired, I assume you feel you have the time to serve. Let's see, what Development Authority usually meets in the afternoon, so it's not a night meeting, which is maybe very good. So we just want to make sure everybody has time to serve. Sometimes you'll be put on a committee, you may be put on a committee that has to do some, other work, but
Right.
Just want you to be prepared if you are selected. But I do appreciate you stepping forward, and I want to move the process forward, too.
Any other questions? All right.
Well, I guess there is a question. Your journalism, playwright, and I asked this question of everybody I've interviewed so far. The map on the wall over there is the future land use guide. It's part of our comprehensive plan, and you said you're new to the county. Are you familiar with those type things? And we just had some interviews for zoning board, and you understand that the job of the JCDA is to find business, but also to keep the county, Jefferson County. Do you think you could do both things?
Well, I mean, I certainly would make an effort. I don't know, going out and recruiting business, what exactly that would involve. So that would be a learning curve.
You have to do the recruiting, but you're on the board that reviews that.
That would review, right. Yeah, and in terms of keeping Jefferson County, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Can you tell me what you
We
mean?
have a land use plan, and that's, every 10 years, we have citizens of the county and a professional go through and see what the county should be for the next 10 years. And that gives us it's not a law, but it gives us a goal that we want to keep our county in.
So in terms of like agricultural use versus commercial development, that kind of thing, right? Yeah. No, I mean, I'm familiar with the concept of land use plans. I haven't taken a close look at the map. I just saw it for the first time tonight. So, obviously, if I were on the panel, I'd have to get familiar with it, and which I would make an effort to do.
Anything else? All right. Thank you, Ms. Gregory.
Thanks.
James Gatz? Hi. Thanks for coming in this evening. Just tell us who you are and why you want to serve on the Development Authority.
All right, well, since we all were on executive session, I scribbled some thoughts on a piece of paper.
Okay, good.
They're really scribbled, so. Well, first of all, thanks for going through this process and talking to so many people and being so careful about who you're appointing to this important board. I think that's that's a wonderful thing about this county. People care about the county. I want to be on this board because I want to represent Shepherdstown. Shepherdstown is a wonderful place, just like the county, but it's a wonderful place, and it's filled with people who have a lot of good ideas and are pretty creative and are pretty strong-willed. And I think, well, they also expect a lot of their local governments, and I think they deserve a strong, clear voice in their local government and on this board, particularly now when there's some concerns about the direction that the board's taking. So I want to do my best to be representing them and doing my best to help make certain that the county moves forward. But on a more kind of beyond my interest in representing Shepherdstown, I have a really strong interest in making sure that this county continues to move forward and grow in a positive direction in the coming years and decades. Seems to me that Jefferson County and Shepherdstown is kind of on a cusp of real change. Long-term change is happening here. So we have to pay attention to what's happening and be careful about the decisions that we're making. And take time to think about the options that we have. Take time to think about what choices we're making and the long-term consequences of those choices. I want to work with the board to kind of have that philosophy. It's okay to be careful. But then there's other things I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about that I'm interested in helping the board think about. One, for sure, is to help the board and the county pay attention to that zoning, to that comprehensive plan. I wasn't here when they created the comprehensive plan. I've lived for about 6 years. Lived in Harpers Ferry for 4 years and Shepherdstown for 2 years now. But I wasn't here, but I've heard about the process that was used for that plan. People really thought that was wonderful, the process, and appreciated it. And I've looked at the plan, and I think it's a pretty good plan. And I've got more to learn about the county through that plan in other ways, but I just think it's important that since we have this thing and we went through this process to make it, we should pay attention to it and help the JGCA pay attention and help the county, other county elected officials to pay attention to it. I also wanted to kind of acknowledge that this county is part of metropolitan Washington, D.C. And that reality is a scary thing to some people. It's scary because it might mean change is coming faster than we want, but it's a reality that brings great opportunities to this place in terms of job creation, in terms of livability, in terms of resources that we need to keep the place going in a positive direction. So I want to try to bring that perspective to the board. I work in Washington. I ride the train at least usually twice a day, not at least twice a day, but no more than twice a day. And so I'm really aware that I think of myself as living in Washington, D.C., near Washington, D.C. It's a metropolitan area. And I think that we needed to recognize that and plan that way and bring that into the way we think about how to keep our county moving forward. I've got one or two more here. The other ones that I wanted to talk about was just two other things. One is I think the board could do a better job of helping to ensure that the towns in this county and the county are more collaborative and plan together, so that any individual town won't make a decision that affects everyone in the county, and they have no authority to even say anything about it. That goes back to the plan, I think. But I think we're learning that isn't a positive thing, and we need to. The JDCA could have a role in facilitating better coordination and collaboration across the different governments. And then finally, don't forget, we also live in a tri-state area where there's Maryland, and there's Virginia, and there's West Virginia, and we don't have to compete. This is a region. And the vitality of the region is going to depend on how things are, all those three different jurisdictions work together. And because we're so close to these other jurisdictions, I think that it's possible to divvy out the responsibilities in a way. If we had a good working relationship with those other jurisdictions that are in the other counties, other states. There's things called empowerment opportunity zones that we have some. There's some in Maryland too, by the way, nearby. Those are opportunities. And some in Maryland also, right across the river. Those are opportunities I think that the JCCA should have a stronger role in working toward, and and other thing, one more thing, the comprehensive plan, it has a lot of focus on small businesses, creating small businesses, helping small businesses to thrive, on tourism and all the businesses that can be part of a tourism industry, and on agriculture. All those things, we can't forget that those things are strong drivers of jobs in this county, and they can be bigger. They're strong drivers of wealth that we need to focus on. So those are the types of things that I would want to be involved in if I could. Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah. I was liking your description of some of your fellow city residents, creative and strong-willed. If you're appointed to the JCDA, you will be on a board that contains some of those folks too, that are creative and strong-willed. How do you approach working in a group setting?
Well, the main thing you do, the main thing that I try to do is honor the other people for their opinions, and to keep the conversation open. You start out with principles, or I have a basic principles that I might be trying to advocate for on the board, but I recognize that other people have honest principles too that they're advocating for. So you got to be really careful to be open to conversations, to have conversations in a way that honors the other person as a member of the board and as a person.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I think he's addressed my issue with what's on the board over there.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, sir, St. Louis University, my alma mater is playing it Friday. I don't know if
You're from, I was just West Virginia, right? I mean, Virginia Tech, right, sorry.
Yeah. And that's my alma mater too, so you might be skating on thin ice here.
Wait, you're from St. Louis U too?
No, I'm a Hokie.
St. Louis U has the blue, that's their color, that's what I
Yeah.
thought.
No.
just
Hokie
being
orange on.
facetious there, but let me ask you, your background looks like more into children's and family, finances for low income. How do you feel that blends into this?
That's where my current job is, or the more recent jobs have been. I worked for the Department of Health and Human Services for a number of years in a component of that agency that focuses on welfare issues, well-being of people. And part of the work that they do, believe it or not, is around community development. They support community development corporations and state efforts to help people have jobs. So I've been engaged it from a slightly different perspective. It's my focus has been economic development, or community development around lower income communities and lower income people, but the principles are the same.
You can make it to the meetings?
I can make it to the meetings if I have been told that the meetings are scheduled, predictable meetings. I've also been told that there was a possibility that they would move to evening meetings, so.
Anything else? Any other questions? All right. Thank you, sir.
Sure, thank you.
Cheryl Pullen? Hi. Hello, they roll. You have to
I
be careful.
noticed.
Hang on to it. So tell us who you are and why you want to serve on the Development Authority Board.
I'm Cheryl Pullen. My husband and I are both originally West Virginia residents. We were both born, raised, educated, me through my bachelor's at WVU and my husband through his master's at WVU, before an accidental military career, as I call it. And then we were out of the state until more recently. We bought our current home in February of 2011 and didn't actually move into it to about May of 14. Shepherdstown to me is extremely special. It's a university town, gives it one quality. It's an art town, it's a music town, has the plays town, it has activities. It's a type of town where when you walk somewhere, you can greet everybody and have a conversation. It's very special. And of course, before, our homes have been kind of demanded by either work or the military, where we had no choice. So this is the house that, okay, we're not going to worry about what color we painted, et cetera. They'll carry us out is our plan, and we'll be there until then. And so I feel very special. I feel very blessed to be in Shepherdstown because of its special things. So I also have a great interest in West Virginia in general and in Jefferson County, because obviously Shepherdstown is just one of the towns in Jefferson County. And driving places, it's important that it's not like Northern Virginia where we were last. So that's part of the reasons that I wanted to join the Development Authority.
Okay. Questions? Start, Josh, do you have questions?
But you seem very excited to represent Shepherdstown, though, so I like that.
I am very excited to represent Shepherdstown. In terms of some of my general ideas in development and in types of jobs and types of things, I think for one thing we need to be aware, and no doubt the board has often done that, of the future, and the future in terms of not only what kind of jobs might come and last, but also things such as the fuel type of energy that's used. I think in terms of jobs, it's very important not to harm any of our areas where we are so strong, such as tourism and agriculture, et cetera. So ideally, the jobs would either complement those or be totally different so that they didn't interfere. Speaking with a farmer, I talked about maybe the infrastructure for packaging crops or the value-added items, or a special butcher, or way to do the storage and do the soybeans, or a brewery, that was mentioned. So, things that might utilize what we already have here. And I know also some people are concerned with our local people getting jobs, our local young people and whatnot. And I think it would be helpful to go and talk with high school, college, tech school counselors and see what kind of jobs our young people need, or what businesses might suit them. Similarly, I know we have a very low unemployment. The county is very special also. And so some of the, in terms of unemployment, might be interesting to find out if that is a job-related thing, if there's certain types of jobs that might better support the people that are unemployed, if, they can truly step into jobs. My brain went south. This is my bedtime. So there was, we have an aging population, and that will last a bit, and the fact that the younger people are not having children to support them. So those are things that we might think about in terms of what kind of jobs might be good. whether it might be something, clothing items that are special for either people in hospitals or assisted livings where they're having trouble, or people at home even though they're having trouble. And I don't know if there's anybody locally making whatever is needed for the racehorses. I just think.
There is.
There
Yeah.
is, okay, I thought there might be. But I think, to stretch out jobs that come with a different kind of forethought than perhaps it seems to some of us the most recent ones have.
Okay, any other questions? Ralph, do you have any?
Well, I guess a lot of your background is education
It is.
and dealing with children.
And adults.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. There'll be 15 other egos on that board. How will you deal with that?
First of all, I'm known for my patience beyond patience, but I think that's also because I know every person comes with a different sort of background, knowledge, and thoughts. I liked a cartoon I saw recently with a number, you could read it as a 6 or the 9. One person was at the 6 side and one was at the 9 side. And they were both right. And I think we run into situations like that, and we have to learn to do give and take and come to a compromise. And as far as dealing with adults, of course, I had parents of children. I was working in special ed, so a lot of interesting things.
Okay, I don't have anything.
Yeah, Ralph asked the question I was going to ask, so we're good.
And as far as the map, I have looked at the map online, but I am puzzled by the fact that the colors don't match exactly, so it's been hard to tell between a couple of categories what they are.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Pullen. Okay.
Well, let me ask all three. If you're not selected today, would you be considered for the next group or
The next group of,
openings?
in the Development Authority or
Yes.
something else? Possibly so.
Okay. All right. So I think we are ready to vote for the Shepherdstown representative. Since they're here, we'll go ahead and do that one first. So, yeah. Well, no, I'm going to start with we have 3 nominations from Shepherdstown.
Oh, I
We're
see.
just gonna, we'll
Yeah.
take them one at a time and vote on each one.
Okay, I got it.
So, okay, the first nominee is, get back to my paper. James Gatz. All those in favor of Mr. Gatz, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Was that 3? Was that 1, 2, Jane,
I said.
Caleb, and you, Josh? Okay, so that's 3, okay. Well, that takes care of that. We don't have to, well, we can go ahead and do the other 2 anyway, if you want to, but that's 3 votes. You can only vote once, so. So, congratulations, Mr. Gatz. And thank you all for applying. We needed the 3 names, and thank you for allowing Shepherdstown to submit yours, both Ms. Pullen and Ms. Gregory. Thank you. So now we're going to go to Charlestown. And we have 3 names also for Charlestown. Mike Tolbert, Michael Brittingham, and Scott Rogers. And I want to make a point about this. I know that Mr. Brittingham said he didn't really want to do it. And Mike Tolbert said he would, but the letter from Charlestown states that they want their representative to the authority to be an elected official. Mr. Tolbert is not going to be running, and his term is up, what is it, Sandy? The end of May, June 1st?
Well, he indicated that he had agreement that the town would support him to stay on at least the end of his term.
You're right.
Well, that's not what the letter says, though, but I don't know
I
what,
mean, he's still an elected official as of today.
Okay,
I mean,
so
if they
that's
read
what-
it, submit it, though.
so, you know, I mean, it's up to them, but according to their letter, they wanted an elected official to be, so I don't even know, we don't have anybody from Bolivar. I don't know that they'll have a meeting before his term expires, but, so anyway, I just wanted to make that point.
Well, when will Mike Tolbert's city council term expire?
End of May.
Well, we would at least hopefully have Bolivar's at our next meeting, so I think it's worthwhile to appoint it, and we need to get this board activated.
Oh, I
Gets
agree.
appointed. I mean, there's two other
Yeah,
people on there.
there are
so-
two other people, yes, absolutely. So, okay, so I just wanted to point that out, because that's what the letter says.
Yeah,
and-
you're right.
And, you know, it's,
Well, if we have to come back, you know, notify them if that's what their letter said, so that when his term of office is up, then they can come and talk to us about it.
so we'll go ahead and vote on the three nominees are Scott Rogers, Mike Tolbert, and Mike Brittingham. And so we're going to vote for them just like we did the others. So I'm going to start with Mike Tolbert. All in favor of Mr. Tolbert, say aye.
Aye.
Is that three? Okay, so Mr. Tolbert is
It was what, Jane?
Jane, Caleb, and Ralph. All right. Okay, so we have the Charlestown representative is Mike Tolbert. So, all right, that concludes the nominations for the Jefferson County Development Authority. And so, okay,
Nathan last?
yeah, we'll put Nathan last.
Did Nathan hear the question that Jonathan had for him?
Oh, yeah. Leeds Corbin asked what kind of personal liability would he have with regard to being on the Board of Zoning Appeals. What kind of personal liability is what he was concerned about?
You know, the famous lawyer answer is,
It depends, of course.
and under, I mean, there are immunities that are involved in serving in a government position, and typically, to be very broad about it, employees of a political subdivision, I'm reading it from a case, are immune from personal tort liability, unless their actions or omissions were manifestly outside the scope of employment or official responsibilities. Their acts or omissions were with malicious purpose and bad faith or in wanton or reckless manner. Liability is imposed by some other thing in the code. So typically, when a person is acting within the scope of their authority, they have immunity. Now, there's all kinds of questions about what the scope of immunity is and how, whether or not the person is acting within the scope of their authority and that kind of thing. But this is a general rule. That's how it works. If a person,
Clear as mud, right?
yeah, well, and it's unfortunate because you have a lot of ancillary issues that pop up. But let's say that a policeman arrested someone. The policeman typically has immunity, and there's different kinds of immunity. It's a big question. But policeman usually has immunity as long as they're acting within the scope of their authority to arrest that person. The policeman can use force to arrest a person. I mean, as long as it's not a... So the bottom line is acting within the scope of your authority. Typically,
Thank you. So, it depends, like you said.
depends.
Okay.
It always depends.
Right, okay.
Engineers hate lawyers because
It depends.
an engineer can calculate, okay, that beam is that long and it's that thick and it'll hold this much weight, but lawyers are always independent.
Inner struggle right here.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Okay. So, all right, moving on to the next item on the agenda. Item number 8, request for WVDEP public hearing. Jane, this is yours. You want to speak to it?
Yes, as the speaker said, Ms. Cannon, during public comment, the public hearing was scheduled, has been canceled. I think it's incumbent upon the DEP to find a location. I think they've had successful hearings at Shepherd, both at the Bird Center and also at I call it the ballroom. I don't know if there's additional costs or whatever, but if the security is an issue, I think they can handle that. I just think the hearing needs to happen here. And so I would like the county commission to write a letter to West Virginia DEP requesting the hearing be scheduled as soon as it be secured.
Okay.
I think I don't have a problem with that at all.
I don't have a problem with it either. I think it's a good thing to do. So you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that the county commission sends a letter to the West Virginia DEP to hold to reschedule the canceled, I don't have the case number, a gas pipeline hearing in Jefferson County. And we can help them find a location if that's a problem.
I'll second the motion. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. On to item number 10. Discussion commission liaison to the Charlestown Utility Board. Okay.
This is separate than the one that's already being advertised.
Yes.
So there's
Yeah,
currently,
this is a liaison. Yeah.
so just so people are aware, there's a voting member that's being advertised currently, and would probably be appointed next meeting.
Yes.
So if you're interested, get your applications in.
Yeah. And then there's also commission liaison. And we had actually appointed Josh earlier.
But the question was, does that go out to also, I guess, was it specifically a commission liaison, was the question? And I don't think that was the actual case. I think it could have been anybody, and that was the problem.
Yeah, and I according to, we have the, in our packet, we have a description of the person and, that would be liaison. And it says, all it says is shall have the right to appoint an individual to serve as liaison to the utility board.
I mean, I don't have a problem being liaison.
But we don't have to nominate 3 people.
Okay, so I'm more than happy to serve, but I think we should still advertise and see if the public's interested. Because as much as I love the utilities, I'm sure there's other people that love them even more.
Well,
Yeah, so you're just there to be there and engage in discussion. You can't go in executive session or vote.
Right.
but I think, it's my understanding, the commission can appoint the liaison. The other one, we actually have to advertise for.
That's right.
Am I reading it
No,
the
you're
wrong
right.
way?
You're right. Yeah, we don't have to, the name we submit to the Charlestown Utility Board or the city council ultimately is the person that will serve.
As liaison.
As liaison, yeah.
But-
They don't choose that one, we do.
Right,
Yeah.
right, okay.
So
All right.
I'd like to put this a little bit more back on the community and let one of those folks take the liaison position if they'd like to.
Okay, I see.
That's my,
So you want to advertise
I'd
it
like to
more like
advertise the
a
liaison
typical
also.
board?
Yes.
Okay, I
That's
got you.
fine.
Yeah,
Yeah. Do we have unanimous consent to do that?
yes,
All right.
that works for me.
Okay. So,
And then we are also advertising for a utility board,
right.
Yes.
board member.
Have you received applicants?
Haven't seen anything.
I haven't received
But you
anything.
put that out last week?
Yeah, and it's supposed to be in there until, I think we're going to appoint on the 4th.
Right.
Okay.
I think I've heard some people that are interested. If no one's interested on the liaison, I'm more than happy to serve as liaison.
Okay.
I just want to give the option before.
Right.
Sure,
No, I
that's
see
fine.
what you mean.
That's good.
Yeah.
These will probably just do the 21st to give it time to get to the paper and
Okay.
Right.
advertise.
Yeah.
That works. Okay.
Okay.
Just quick thing, I know just can I touch on 11 for 1 second, just to
course.
mention what it was?
Yes.
Okay, so certain boards around the county and stuff, they allow the school system has agreed to like hold mock elections for like, I know Montgomery County has student member of the board, and the competing high schools hold elections to elect a member to serve on the school board there. So they just give their input from the, I'm not gonna say teenagers, but the school members' point of view of a student. So I thought maybe it's an interesting idea to bring to the county commission and talk to the school board and perhaps get a Jefferson County or Washington County student that serves 6-month increments and elected by their fellow student body to chime in on certain discussions at the county commission. And that would help them personally as far as leadership, engage the whole populace of the schools in like their civic duty and understanding how things work. Some can vote because they're 18, others not so much, but maybe that can transpire into when they turn 18 and can actually vote. They understand the process, how things work, whatever. I'm just throwing that out there. We'll talk about it more next meeting.
Yeah, why don't you write an outline of your
Yeah, I'm gonna
thoughts,
do that.
so I have a clue where you're headed.
I'll write something and stick in the agenda next meeting. I just thought, everybody's always talking about, well, this affected children. The children, they really don't have much input, so let's try to give them something.
Okay, so we're at the foot of the agenda. Anything else before we finish up with public comment? Well, actually, we have, well, we're going to do Nathan. We can do Nathan last.
I thought we were done.
I guess who's gonna make public comment is the question.
Well, we have, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people signed up.
That's quick.
Do all 8 want to have public comment, or were your issues addressed at the course of the meeting?
I don't know if they're all still here. I'll
Okay,
call and find out.
Yeah.
So,
I'm still
okay.
here.
So we'll go back to public comment, and we'll finish up with executives. Well, do you have, well, we'll get to that. Do you have?
You have stuff, Nathan?
Do you have some things to go over? We may be able just to go over them.
Okay, all right. So we'll go on to public comments since we only have these few people. So next up on the list is Danny Lutz.
Danny Lutz, Cabletown District, also Jefferson County Supervisor for the Eastern Panhandle Conservation District. At the beginning of the meeting, I put a flyer at each commissioner's seat, gave some of them to him personally and also to Ms. McDonald and for Mr. Cochran. And what I want you to especially notice is that, and this is just one fund, the 319 funds for the Chesapeake Bay program, and you are leaving money on the table by not more fully participating in the activities of the Conservation District. And I cite this example. It was approved for 184 different kinds of native trees to be bought for the Sam Michaels property at the meeting last night. There was $7,500 approved for that acquisition. It's going to cost about $5,300. You're leaving money on the table. It's up to the supervisors to approve, not to initiate. So if you want something, you've got to let us know. And I will go back to the meeting in January, the last meeting in January, where the representative from the Emergency Services informed you that last year he had hired a consultant to inform you and the public of the dangers of feeding hay that had been baled on land that had been standing in water because of a listeria contamination. Now, $3,800 is not a lot, but you could have gotten the same information to the farmers free of charge by simply calling the Conservation District and getting the flyer from Barbie Elliott, because it came from, the information that he paid $3,800 for comes free from WVU or Virginia Tech or Maryland or Penn State. They all will tell you the same thing. So my public comment is not to upbraid you, but to tell you that you're leaving money on the table. The money that is not spent will have to go back to the Treasury if it's not spent by the end of the fiscal year. And most of the $37,000 that's down here that is remaining probably will stay. However, the $7,500 will come against that sum. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. Our meeting is always the third Wednesday of each month, 7 p.m. at the Farm Service Agency meeting room in Martinsburg, 151 Edwin Miller Boulevard. And by the way, several people in the county administration told me they didn't know anything at all about our annual tree sale. 20,000 of these flyers went out. Now, how they didn't know anything about it escapes me. So, thank you very much. Some better work needs to be done, politely.
Jay Mansfield?
My name's Jay Mansfield. I'm from Shepherdstown. I'm a veteran, registered Republican, and I vote against pollution. The Scientific Symposium on Air Quality is April 27th all day at the Clarion in Harpers Ferry, and you have your invitation. In the hot zone near Rockwell, our endurance athletes will work their butts off in this county, will fail because the harder they try, the more pollutants they'll inhale. Leisure bike riding and running will be declared stupid and counterproductive. Hiking is out. Horse riding is risky. Every one of our children in the hot zone will be a little bit sick. Some will be very sick, but all will show the effects of Rockwell in their lungs, their skin, their abilities, and their cognition. You will get suspicious when you see chunks of mineral fiber in your dryer trap as you clean the lint. And your cars will be dusty every single day. The kids who grow up here will hate us for what we've done. Mahalia, Mississippi went from 0 to 400,000 pounds of toxic release inventory after Rockwell got established there. Rockwell was 100% of that 400,000 pounds. That must happen here. And Rockwell will cause it, but let's be fair, the pollution is not required for Rockwell to function. We have the technology to not pollute and make mineral wool. Smokestacks don't stop pollution, they hide it because it stinks and it makes people sick. Hiding pollution requires cooperation from Mother Nature. But Mother Nature doesn't cooperate in this county, and the result is concentrated pollution. Weather is the deciding factor about how much pollution will be in our children's lungs. It's coming out at a rate of 400,000 pounds per year. Now, we know that 70% of the time, those toxins will go somewhere else and be diluted, and that's because of the smokestack. But 30% of the time, every year, sometimes lasting for days, 120,000 pounds of pollution will drop like dead birds onto our children. Go into their lungs, into their bloodstream of these young kids. Toxins will lodge in their kidneys or the brain or the genitals of young boys and girls. And it will change them. It will change them because the smokestack technology fails here 30% of the time. And our grandchildren will carry Rockwell chemicals and particles in them for the rest of their lives. The rest of their lives. Rockwell says we have factories all over the world and people don't react like Mr. Mansfield says. Listen to me. We don't have Gulf winds like in Mississippi. We don't have Pacific breezes like in Grand Forks. We don't have Great Lakes winds like Milton, Ontario. We don't have North Atlantic winds like Germany or Mediterranean winds like Croatia. And Denmark has windmills in their ocean, for heaven's sakes. You won't find hundreds of windmills in Kearneysville. If we were like Denmark, windmills would power the entire Eastern Panhandle. That's how different we are. Dead air upside down, that's our problem. Did the EPA or the DEP consider 30% temperature inversions? No. What determines whether a smokestack works or not? Temperature inversion. That is a technology failure, and this board must pass a county ordinance to stop
Thank you. Donna
people
Westbrook
from
is next.
producing when their technology fails.
She left? Okay. Catherine Joswick? Catherine Joswick?
She said hers was covered.
Oh, okay. Sharon Wilt?
That's me. As always.
Last.
It's going to be quick, right?
He's not last. We have a couple more if
Yeah,
they're still
it's
here.
gonna be quick.
said.
I'm back again today, and I'll be back to every meeting. When is someone going to look at the sinkholes on the bike path? They're getting bigger, there's more of them, the weather's getting better, there's more people out there. Somebody's kid's gonna fall in one of these things. They're big enough for a child to fall in. It's just getting ridiculous. And the public comment, thank you all for hearing us all, or you wouldn't hear about the sinkholes tonight. The sinkholes are important. If we don't step up and do something now, they're just gonna get bigger. The one at Burr Park, what, we're close to $1 million now to mediate that thing, and it's still an open sinkhole? There's like 8 of them. There's a sinkhole out there that's still open at Burr Park. Ask, what's his name about it?
I did.
Have they closed it up?
Working on it.
There's 10 of them, easily, Patsy, out on the bike path. And, you know, it's like, are they gonna connect? We don't know. I got another question. Was all the applicants have 2 interviews? Because I distinctively remember Griggs Mason's name was not on the second interview list.
Can't answer you right now. This is public comment.
Okay? But his name was not on that second interview list. Was he interviewed? If not, then he shouldn't be on the JCDA. Thank you all.
Dana Anders,
She left.
Mary Ellen Ross,
She left.
and Aline Schelling.
I'm here.
Okay.
Hi, I am Elaine Schelling.
Elaine, okay.
Aline.
Aline. Okay.
So I started this by saying, so here we are again with a pilot agreement we, the public, are not privy to, but you are addressing that to give us more information, and I do appreciate that. I would remind you that the Rockville pilot was apparently approved because of naivete and ignorance. The truth has come out, sorry, the truth has come out. Is that how it works?
Push the button in the middle.
Those batteries
that
don't
work
last
now?
so long.
There
You're
you
on.
go.
There you go.
Okay.
It's on.
So, the truth has come out that tons of pollutants will be released into the air and washed into our aquifer. Our karst geology will make seepage of pollutants from holding ponds and tanks inevitable. Actually, that karst geology, in combination with the Rockville, will make Jefferson County a Superfund site. We, the West Virginia taxpayers, will be left holding the bag in the form of poorer health and reduced lifespans and the associated costs. We are the martyrs to these eco-friendly products being produced in an eco-unfriendly manner. I'll summarize. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Do not approve the team-up pilot. Do not allow Rockville to railroad us into passive acceptance. Thanks.
That concludes the agenda, except for our legal counsel has some things that he wants to talk to us about.
Okay, so I think I can deal with both of these items in open session. I'm going to pass over everything except the last 2 items. And it says discussion and communication with FEMA regarding a potential resolution of that case. As you may recall, the Department of Highways has planned to revise, repair, I think maybe even completely replace the Bakerton Road Bridge. And part of the property is owned by the county, and it is under a hazard mitigation plan and part of the requirements under that plan are that there not be anything, there's a couple exceptions, but generally that you not build on it, okay? And so the Department of Highways condemned just a small piece of property there to take care of this bridge. Because of our duties under the hazards mitigation plan to not allow development and that kind of thing on that property, we had to oppose the condemnation. So then FEMA removed it to federal court, and we've kind of been in a litigation mode. I've been dealing with a few issues with that, but generally, the lawyers involved, could see that this is a case that needs to be. It's just that, we had this duty, so we had to object to the condemnation. But anyway, it's taken a while. It's worked through FEMA. Ultimately, I think we probably have a resolution, at least in the works. And part of that resolution, I've been working with the Department of Highways attorney to prepare some documents. FEMA has requested us to send them a certain amount of documents, and one of the things that they've requested is that the commission basically send them a letter telling them that we want this to happen. Okay, so I've drafted a letter, and though it is still in form, I am just requesting that the commission authorize me to finish this letter and related documents to resolve this condemnation suit, which would basically allow the state to condemn just a little part right there next to the bridge so they can finish these repairs. And just to make matters simple, authorize one of you, I suppose you, Commissioner, sign this letter, and then we can get it out the door.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I move we allow legal counsel to write a letter regarding the condemnation of the FEMA and the president of the commission to sign it.
Second?
I think so.
Okay. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Next.
And the next item is a lawsuit that was filed against the county by a gentleman named Dressler. And ultimately, just to make a long story very short, the federal court has dismissed that lawsuit. So I'm just advising you of that.
Mark it off the list.
Yes.
And the list gets shorter until some.
It gets longer.
So those are really the only issues that I think we have to go over tonight.
Just a dumb question, is that the Dressler we used to have pictures on our front door, so watch out?
That was probably before my time, but yeah.
Okay, all right then. Okay, is there anything else? Second. All in favor? Aye.